Alright, Marvel's near 40th film is finally out. It's the Fantastic Four, First Steps. Set in alternate Earth 838, after a space mission in 65 gone wrong, 4 astronauts, Reed Richards, Ben Grimm, Sue Storm, and Johnny Storm, now known as the Fantastic Four, must make a desperate Hail Mary as Earth's last defense against their most daunting challenge yet, Silver Surfer and Galactus. Now, I've watched one of the Tim Story movies from the 2000s when I was a kid. I don't really remember it that much, and from what I can tell, they were only really a product of the silly, schlocky, post-Spider-Man superhero era before we got graced with Batman Begins and Iron Man. I later became more familiar with the god-awful Fantastic 2015, which stands as an obvious example of a creative with unique ideas being slammed by executive meddling and reshoots. Obviously, as you know, Max Landis, coming off the heat of Chronicle, was brought on by Fox wanting to make a twisted body horror film with no real villain, which is pretty far from the comic, but I believe that you can adapt things however you please if it serves the story that you're trying to tell. However, as we know, at some point the studio had a falling out over creative differences, so they pivoted, threw Doom in, and made a pointless disaster. But when you look at what it was gonna be before the suits neutered it, it actually had some interesting concepts. Like, I kinda like the horror stuff. Too bad everything outside this scene is hot garbage.
Yes, it is.
But hey, at least they knew that, and a decade later, here we're treated to what seems like the closest thing to a fully realized vision. I'm glad to say the studio finally let a director cook, and has done just right. Now, I'd like to believe this studio let a director have some leeway with their script for once, because for the most part, I found that Marvel's signature problems being the sometimes excessive and sauceless action, redundant, annoying quips, and dialogue written like it's allergic to subtlety, were largely all left out of here, which I was happy and almost a little surprised to see. I mean, it's not without a couple quips, but I did find that the situational humor and dialogue hits, and the comedy never really compromised the emotion like I found with most MCU films, or even with Superman at times, because the script's honestly, it's pretty tight here. And thankfully, all the action complements the story really quite well, and it's not the other way around. Like, there's more than a few truly fascinating sequences that just kept going and topping themselves, visually and conceptually, giving me that awe and wonder that I've missed from the MCU and haven't even seen a hint of since Guardians. And if you think that's a while, shit man, there's been a hot piss streak of under-budgeted, underwritten, and underwhelming content on Disney Plus, not even just the film flops. But I'm really stoked to say that this one has the sauce. And Marvel's shown me once again they're capable of making something that's worth your investment, from laying down the foundations really well in the first act, setting up the stakes and adventure in Act 2, and getting you invested in the characters and drama before bringing it all home in a brilliant hour and 50 minutes. The first act takes a little slower than the second and third, but it's by design. We get to really understand the main four from an emotional perspective and are gently eased into the alternate world with all its bright quirks, technological advancement, giving Earth 838 just as much of a personality as the characters. With flying cars, 60s aesthetic, and whimsy direction by Matt Shackman, I could probably just live in this world. Like, the immersion here is on point, and they really take it to the right degree of showing the global reaction to all this tension, which I was curious about. I do hate to make the obvious comparison with Superman, but being as that I only saw Superman 2 weeks ago in the same seat, and there are a lot of similarities that I won't necessarily get into, but mainly with utilizing a similar framing device and how it's sort of thrown you into an alternate timeline at this random spot to experience an arc in a fresh new standalone universe. I think it's important to say that Superman is missing the opening ease of getting into that fresh new universe. Given as seamless as it is here, it's way smoother from how it's using the world building and media coverage to make this team feel already established, and catches you up in a smart, fun way by laying down the foundations really well with an opening segment on the Ted Gilbert Show covering the previous achievements of the four over the years, instead of just a loud headache action with boring text. You remember when I said maybe don't take Grandma to Superman?
What is happening?
I think you could probably take Grandma to Fantastic Four, and she might even like it. She's not going to be confused, I'll tell you that much. I was excited to see how they'd play up all the retro futuristic 60s aesthetic with all the zany Jack Kirby comic ideas brought to vision, but mainly I was down to see how far they take things with the sci-fi elements, such as the space travel and the cosmic threats, but goddamn, I was not expecting a full meal out of that. Most notably, Act 2 was peak for me and visually felt inspired by things like Interstellar, which was great to see. Galactus as a character had such a dreadful presence too. I think they depicted his ancient cosmic duty really well on that scale. I also loved how they handled the Silver Surfer story and how it all came together in the end. And I also thought that both the villains contrasted the whimsy tone really well throughout from the first time they showed up. Like this shot here, my heart felt fell out of my asshole. And from then on, the tension only grew more and more, with the sci-fi adventure stuff getting more exciting. And like, I wasn't expecting to see a freaking Lord of the Rings Balrog escape. That's pretty sick, dude. And for here, it works. And you know what else does here too? The score, helping everything come together. Like, my god, it's probably one of my favorite scores in the MCU. Michael Giacchino creates music textured enough to stick with you, using several old brass and piano techniques that make conversation sing, that can also add a bubbly and fun atmosphere, and also ominously welcome in the darker aspects in the latter half of the story really seamlessly, in a way that makes you feel every single moment. Once again, I was almost a little bit worried about the VFX going in, since they did hold back showing a lot of Mr. Fantastic stretching in the trailers, but dude, I don't even really know what I was on, because it looks solid. Sure, I've heard some people mention that the baby is looking a little bit uncanny at times, which I could kind of see, but I don't think it was nearly quite as cursed as the baby from Twilight.
Destroy the child. Corrupt them all.
Plus, they had a real stand-in a lot of the time. Additionally, the Thing's design and look is probably the best we've ever seen, but both the Silver Surfer and Galactus translated amazingly on the big screen. And how they represented the scale sometimes, like, I don't even know how they did this as fast as they did. But I mean, these are flawlessly CG integrated characters. And as for the main characters, well, let's talk about them. Despite being in almost everything out now, I haven't actually watched a whole lot with Pedro Pascal in it. Sorry, Joel, I ain't got no time for no TV shows. I've seen too much of this guy's face, so I thought his read was gonna take a little bit of getting used to. And one thing is, his take is slightly different from the other iterations we've seen from this character, but from his first line, I was in. Except I do wish he got to use his mid-Atlantic accent he tried out.
Like, well, welcome to the family, July 25th, summer 20, you know, and they were like, talk more like yourself.
Regardless, he really worked in the film, and I loved how they incorporated his brainy, analytical personality as a trait. Like, he's smart, grounded, and a little awkward. In fact, all the characters have distinct traits that help them shine with charisma, accompanied by electric chemistry. I could honestly watch these four do pretty much anything. I think Johnny or Ben probably was my favorite. Ben, he gets a little bit of dialogue with Natasha Lyonne, but I honestly would have liked to have seen more characterization for him and his sorrow, with perhaps a little bit more depth shared with Natasha Lyonne's character in a longer cut, but I'm happy with what we got. Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm might have been my favorite, despite those haunting blue contacts. I think his role in the story played out well, and I did enjoy his comedic relief balancing off of the maturity. Vanessa Kirby Sue's Storm, though, was totally the heart of the movie. She carries this emotional weight with her and made everything come together in a few really great performances while keeping everyone in line and driving the story forward. Once again, like with Thunderbolts, there's some surprising moments of emotional layering that really works to flesh out these characters, and we really get to grasp their thinking when dealing with concepts as heavy being discussed in the film. You get a real sense of what these people carry, and you gain even more of a rationale to their thinking and actions in a way that's very purposeful. Honestly, it plays more like a sci-fi drama with a flavor of action than it does your titular superhero fatigue stew, which gives this film a unique edge to it. Like, I was fully immersed with the stakes and the storylines, and apparently lots of it was either trimmed back or cut out. Like, where the hell's John Malkovich? It's unique, tonally interesting, and a lot of fun, so I guess I just wanted more. The only thing that was a bit of a miss for me was the end credit scene. It felt a little bit too on the nose and tacked on with the context it's lacking. It almost feels like it was shot last week and just kind of speed slapped onto the end of this movie to make it out before the release window. But hey, it got my theater making some noise, and it got me at least curious for what's next in this series. Guys, overall, it's a full meal. It's got the heart, it's got the adventure, and 100% the direction, because Fantastic Four First Steps gets a home run 9.4 out of 10. What? I friggin' willy liked it. And Marvel, if you're asking why not 10, give me my Wesley Snipes Blade 4 and maybe we'll talk about it. Before I go, I wanted to mention Disney decided to show a sneak preview at the new Avatar movie. It's a trailer that's not even out yet. Like, I couldn't believe it was starting. Like, my whole family loves Avatar, but I got to look at 2.5 minutes of Avatar 3 in a new trailer, and I only really got the last 40 seconds on video or so. But damn, I can't wait. The Air Tribe looked freaking amazing. You know what? And that's it for all the big blockbuster summer movies. I don't think we have any more super movies coming out this year. We got Naked Gun coming out next weekend. I'm probably gonna go see it. If I don't do a stop for a thought, I'll do it in the catch-up. You know me. Please like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you feel like it. It helps me out a lot more than you'll ever know. And thanks again for watching my video. Remember to wear your seatbelt, wash your hands, and stay black.
They ought to teach this in school. It's not always cool to be cool. What? You try to play you for a fool. Like you see a girl who's unique. It's a treat, cause she's sweet. And she really seems to knock you off your feet. You wanna say hey, but you don't. You don't. Your mom says tell her how you feel, but you won't. Cause you're just too cool to tell her truly. So you're busy playing cool, now she's gone. She's gone. Gone on to another while I sing my funky song. I never pass up a chance. I know the story seems long, but when I know the time is right for me and you, I just flame on, flame on.